Yeah. Well, it's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Happy to be here with you.
So, before we get into your good work, I want to know, I know we're all getting a little tired of talking about the pandemic, but it was such a big deal for all of us. How did you make it through that time period, and how has it influenced the way that you do work now?
People are going to hate this. All me and all my gang, so to speak, we said, you can't send us home. We already work from home.
Yeah.
So we have basically a home-based practice model. I've trained over 4,000 people to use this model, and our job is to help others in health. So we're always kind of walking the talk. And I don't know if this is going to upset anyone, but we avoided any mandated, government influence around things to do about that pandemic. It was really unfortunate what happened, and it set a lot of people back. But we seem to actually thrive because for two reasons. One is I teach a course in functional lab work and natural protocols, how to live yourself out of problems that you likely lived yourself into. So that's what I teach. And um, people were sent home. So they're at home. What can I do for myself? Well, take a course, learn something, go back to school.
Yeah. Yeah.
And online is the best way to go these days. And so my course that I teach that boomed, did really well, still doing really well. And then the practitioners who I've taught to work out of their homes instead of having brick and mortar, we do basically telemedicine, online coaching, and lots of things like that. So they were sitting at home and with lots of other people at home looking to get healthy to either, overcome or prevent disease and illness. We all did really well, and I feel kind of guilty about it. At least sheepish. I feel a little sheepish, like it actually was really good for our industry, business, and things like that, Joe. So um, that's how we handled it. And
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
it's the same thing. It's this continuation. Like people are now much more aware
Yeah.
of boosting their immune system and things like that to do to prevent getting ill, and who don't want to go the sort of conventional way.
Absolutely. No, I get it. So let me ask you this. If we broke down what you do on a daily basis in 2024, I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day. One of the kids is curious and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I teach people how to use laboratory work, how to get blood, saliva, urine, and stool, and assess it for what's really wrong with them, so they can fix themselves. So instead of just taking medicine for the symptoms, like pills, you figure out what's really wrong and fix it.
Yeah. So what did you want to be when you were in the third grade? What was your dream?
You know, hard to say. I grew up in Canada. I liked hunting and fishing. I wanted to be a wild man. I read Robinson Crusoe and wanted to be like him,
Yeah.
living on fish in a, you know, weird place. I mean, obviously, it would have been nice to have some company besides that guy named Friday in that
Right.
book. But yeah, I was always a woodsman, mountain guy. I live on a mountain today, so kind of living the dream, if you will.
So how did medicine become your life? Take me back to where you were born and raised and the foundational seeds that were planted into you that eventually got you to this point where medicine is your life.
There was a long period in between where I might not have been so keen on some of these things, but my mother cooked every meal for us. Stay-at-home mom. She always used natural ingredients. Both my grandfathers were growers, fruit and vegetables and things. Um, so I grew up in Canada, and again, hunting and fishing. We ate game, and she was particular about not taking us to the doctor when she could fix it herself. We took cod liver oil every morning in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So that kind of a thing. And if we were scratching our bums, she would give us some kind of parasite or whatever the hell it was. back then, so it was a lot of natural treatment, as I recall. Again, a lot of time passed. I am answering your question, but
Sure. Yeah.
um, you know, you'd have to fast forward quite a bit from there to get to the root of what I do now.
So what were some of the foundational elements in that space there between growing up and now that were really huge for you to get to where you're at and to diagnose and to help people use alternative methods to healing?
Yeah, good question, Joe. I haven't thought about it in a while, but I remember getting a book when I was 19 called Healing Ourselves. It's just out of arm's reach in my bookshelf to my left here. I still have this book. It's old and dog-eared and
Huh.
but it was on my coffee table for probably a couple decades. And it talked about healing ourselves and things to do with your diet and sleep and meditation and physical stretching, kind of yoga in nature, sort of. It was Eastern, definitely Eastern philosophy. So I got that was 19 and I read it 10 times and all my friends read it too. It was interesting. And I was doing other things for a living through my 20s and 30s, but I think that book was really and natural kinds of things. I bought it at a what we used to call a food co-op.
Yeah.
There was no health food stores when I was 19. I'm 71 years old, so that's 52 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So 52 years ago, you didn't see there was no Sprouts or Whole Foods or these things. There was food co-ops. You could go in there and buy your brand, by the scoop and put it in a bag, and they had vitamins and things. I remember this protein drink I used to drink, and it was just really weird back then. Not, and I bought that book there is the point. So that was one thing at least that definitely was kind of an anchor for me.
So are you encouraged by how many um like you were talking about the early co-ops, it seems like there's more accessibility for people to be healthy and to get ointments and remedies and things than before. Are you encouraged over your lifespan of seeing all of these changes evolve to kind of having many more options right now?
Yes, there's two aspects to that. One is the self-awareness and people being more conscious, and the other is companies follow the marketplace. Most companies are market followers, not market leaders, and that's true with modern medicine too. That's its problem actually is companies make products to follow the marketplace, the needs. It's pretty easy to figure out the needs of people based on symptoms and conditions and things like, and come up with a product for it and to make claims about it, especially in the US where, believe it or not, we're less regulated than other countries. And I like that fact, but you can make any kind of claims. And um, if you go to, let's say, a Whole Foods, walk through the vitamin department now and read the labels, believe me, I got plenty of stuff on my countertops too. We call it the in our house, my wife and I call it the supplement graveyard. Because you hate to throw this expensive stuff out, and so you put it on the shelf somewhere away. Anyway, so if you read the labels going through the grocery store or those aisles with some, you read it and you go, oh, I could use that, and you get to the next one, you go, oh, I could use some of that. That's because of the way that they write the labels. It's
Yeah.
it's they're making claims. If you have this, if you have that, if you want to boost this or downplay that, some other thing, then this is good for you. So you end up with shelves and shelves and shelves full if you can afford it. Um, and I say that, but at the same time, I really believe supplements are important. I think
Yeah.
they're really critical part of life. No one's grandfather's growing food down the street and around the corner anymore. My brother and I used to get tricked into going and shoveling out the neighbors' horse stalls. Like that's fun.
Yeah.
Here's a shovel and here's a rake and here's the wheelbarrow. Now go over there and you bring back that horse poop and we'll put it in the compost pile. Won't that be fun? And yeah, we it was fun. But at
Yeah.
the same time, he was taking it, composting it and tilling that into his soil. Well, he grew the vegetables that we were eating, and he had flowers too. He's a great grower of all kinds of things. But so that was how we got tricked into eating really healthy, I guess. I can remember washing carrots off in rainwater
Yeah.
with some dirt still on them, and that was our minerals and
Yeah.
things. So today, no one eats like that. So where are you going to get your vitamins and minerals and essential fatty acids and antioxidants and trace elements and phytonutrients and things? You're supposed to get them from food, but as you know, soils are depleted and it's not in the food anymore. Plus, the way they harvest and ship and store and all these things is counterproductive.
Yeah.
So taking supplements can be really instrumental to make sure you're getting all the nutrients that we're genetically required to have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great point. So let me ask you this. Who's been kind of a hero or an inspiration in your work?
Plenty. Well, Dr. Bill Timmons was the guy who taught me about lab work, especially around hormones and the immune system and some other things. He died of, he actually started a lab because no one was doing the lab work that he personally needed. So 25 years ago when I started, he was alternative lab work. Bill Wolcott is another one, William Wolcott. He wrote the book, and everyone should go grab it, The Metabolic Typing Diet, and because it's the only one that's truly individualized
Yeah.
for every single person. It individualizes your diet. You can also go to mtdiet.com. It's a great website. But these things are instrumental. Another Bill, so this is three bills in a row now. Bill Bailey, William Bailey was a DO who walked into my office one day. I was working in a wellness center, and he was snooping around and said he wanted to rent some space and but we took a liking to each other. He became a mentor. Just a genius. He actually was a rocket scientist. Because I say, well, it's not rocket science. He goes, I used to be one of those too. So he worked for a big aerospace company, and he got sick, and he there was nowhere to get well. So he went to school, became a DO to work on himself, and that was probably 50 years ago now. So anyway, he was a mentor. I have other mentors. Wouldn't be right if I didn't mention the great nutritionists of the 20s and 30s and 40s, like Royal Lee and Francis Pottinger and um, Weston Price, of course, who did this research on ancient tribes, why they're healthier than we are, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, so there's some the classics, like I mentioned, and then in my personal life, some great people. Um, I went from environmental law, saving the whole planet, air, birds, water, trees, beasts, to helping people in 1999. And I just got weirded out. Like you see enough dead fish and birds from the environment, you start wondering about people,
Yeah.
including
Yeah.
myself. I was healthy, but I didn't want something sneaking up on me.
For
So I
sure.
changed careers and could
So
say
are
the
you
rest
happy
is
that you made
history.
that? Are you happy that you made that change?
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still read my environmental journals and what's going on. And by the way, cleaning up the planet, when the most current, or the laws of today weren't there when I was a kid.
Yeah.
There was only the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act. There was a couple of things. And then believe it or not, it was Nixon signed some things into law that made companies and the government. So in the early 70s, hippie lawyers started suing the government and the military. And I lived on Lake Erie for a while and grew up on the Great Lakes almost my whole young life. And Lake Erie was dead.
Yeah.
In 1968, the Cuyahoga River, which flows from Ohio into Lake Erie, caught on fire.
Wow.
The river caught on fire because it was so. These were the things, and then you couldn't eat anything. There was nothing living in Lake Erie, which is a huge one of the five Great Lakes. Today, you can order walleye, fresh, frozen walleye and it's the walleye capital of the world now
Yeah. Yeah.
because of again sort of hippie lawyers suing the government and these big companies and the military to clean up their act.
Yeah.
Hey, you can't do that to our water and air. I don't know if you remember acid rain.
Oh yeah. 100%.
There's hardly any acid rain anymore, because
Yeah.
they got the sulfur out of the air. The,
Yeah.
and so there was a lot of great work done. And then again, I really, so that was wonderful, rewarding, and actually I did very well uh, financially doing. There's a lot of money in environmental work and recycling and all these things. And so I just switched jobs and started back at the bottom when I was about 40 something, mid
Yeah.
40s. And I love it. I love every minute. Thomas Edison said, "I never worked a day in my life."
Yeah.
It was all fun.
Yeah. That's it. So what is it that gets you up out of bed every day? What is the motivator for you to do this good work you're doing? You're influencing people in so many good ways, sending good ripples out, but you also have to evolve. What is that combined energy for you every day?
I get up and pray, and I get up early, 3:30, 4 o'clock. Because I go to bed so early. I get really, you can get much better sleep, they say, and I believe, before midnight. 2 hours of sleep before midnight's worth, you know, like 4 hours of sleep after.
Yeah.
So if you can get your deep non-REM sleep, get into a couple cycles of that before, 12 or 1 o'clock, when the body wants to wake up for different reasons, hormones and blood sugar and these things. So if I wake up at 3:30 or 4 and I say, hey, this is it for me, I'm awake, I get up and I will do some exercise. I make a cup of coffee, frankly, because I still think that's okay. That's vitamin C to me,
Yeah.
coffee. And so, and I enjoy my day. I live in paradise, and and I have work to do. The lessons I created starting in about 2008, I still revise them. I worked on them last night. I worked on them this morning, and so I'm always revising and updating and trying to find new ways to teach and to say things. And I also, if you don't mind me saying, I've graduated 4,000 people from my course. I've personally interviewed over 2,000 of them
Yeah.
afterwards. We call it the post-grad interview. Now I have about 50 staff and some of my leaders. They took over some of the graduation consults, but I ask every single person who ever took my course, a number of questions, including, quite honestly, how do you think I can make, what was missing? What could I do that would make the course better? And I get some of my best ideas from the very smart people who took it and are forthcoming enough to say it out loud. I still get some, it was perfect, it was just great, but that doesn't help me.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's like, well, what about this read or what about that? And I'd say, if I hear it enough times,
Yeah.
I work with my staff to change it. So it's certainly the iteration run. I can't even tell you what number iteration we're on, but it's just the next iteration is coming out in January.
So, of all of these thousands of students you've influenced, what's one of your favorite success stories? And it doesn't have to be a name, but like a situation that you really remember that stands out.
Well, everyone has some success because as part of the course, Joe, we work on ourselves. So the labs that I teach, everyone as part of the course, sort of the uh, you learn one, you do it on yourself, and then you teach it to others. They go out and they do that in the world. That's how it works. So people have had overcome all kinds of. They signed up mostly to work on themselves, and that alone is worth the price of admission. I'm talking about people with migraines and ADD and PCOS and all the other things: tiredness, fatigue, foggy thinking, overweight, uh, depression, all kinds of things. But so people come to me with their own challenges, but they want to help others too. That ends up a lot of times being their specialty, in our world of health coaching and allied health practitioners, we're called. Um, oh, I can think of so many stories. Joe, a lady, um, had was overweight and she was really depressed because she's overweight, but it was because of medication.
Yeah.
So she was on medication for the hives, and she's 40 pounds overweight because she'd been on this um, medication that made you gain weight. And she'd recently been to the doctor who told her, she says, oh, lady, you could be fat, you could have the hives, take your pick. And she said, well, that, because she was trying to express her frustration with the weight, he said, you can be fat, you can have the hives. And she said, well, that's depressing. And her physician said, according to her, I can write you a prescription for antidepressants if you want.
Wow.
And when I asked her, well, why don't we just test and find out why you get the hives? Her head snapped around like Exorcist. Like it went around 3 times. What?
Yeah.
Like, and to us, it just sounds normal.
Yeah.
What we'll test and find out what's giving you the. That wasn't even part of the world that she
Yeah.
was in the medical space. So I have so many stories like that,
Yeah.
Joe. I can go on,
Yeah. I bet you
especially
do.
working with children. Children are the greatest joy to work with, and I know because I raised four, and I also coached football, youth football for 15 years. And so kids are amazing. And they heal so quickly because
Yeah.
they're still very they're in an anabolic state because they're growing.
Yeah.
So they're in this amazing state of growth and stuff, and they fix real well. Um, One of my clients asked me, "Do you work with kids?" Yeah, I work with kids. Why? Well, they want to send my kid home from school if I don't put him on medication.
Hmm.
And at the time, it was Ritalin. Ritalin was the favorite medication. And I said, well, do you think he has a Ritalin deficiency? And she didn't think that was very funny at all and said, no, I don't want to put my kid on drugs. Can you help or not? I said, I don't know, but we could do some labs and find out. Maybe. And so we did. And after we straightened the boy out, by the way, he was 9 years old, being sent home or threatening sending him home if he didn't get on meds. That was not a school nurse. That was not a doctor who had said it was the principal and teacher
Wow.
trying to prescribe medication for a 9 year old. Now, by the way, Ritalin's a class 2 narcotic. That's the same class as cocaine. And so we know that's not the right thing, right? But uh, within 3 weeks of, again, straightening the boy out, who I never even met, I just worked through the mom. Moms are so great with their kids. They can, but, did the labs and things. She got it all done. And the principal tracked me down through the mom. Is, hey, Mr. Davis, this is a different kid. He's paying attention. He's not poking the other kids. He's not bursting out loud inappropriately and on and on. And, actually coming to school with his homework done. And I'm I still get the willies when I hear this because it's such a joy and that's what we're in business for. And that's what we do. And, then he blows it. He says, what'd you put him on?
Wow.
As if it was just something, he wanted to know what's that magic pill all about. And I had to tell him, well, we put him on a better diet and a better exercise schedule and a better, bedtime and reading and just too much work
Yeah.
for him
Yeah.
in a class. But I thought, man, I'm going to get the whole school here.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, along with that story of everything that you've done in your career up to this point and evolved into, what are you the proudest of?
The tribe.
Yeah.
So out of 4,000 graduates now, it's counting, ticking, clicking all the time. Um, I have over 1,000 that are what I would call, dues paying members of the alumni group. These are people who've turned it into a profession.
Yeah.
So we have hobbyists, and that's great. People only took the course for their personal edification and health, and that's worth the price of admission. But the fact that people actually are taking this knowledge and they get a certificate, they get a lot of privileges having gone through the course and completed it. And we have about an 80% completion rate, which is amazing. Um, they're out there doing this work in the world and they're making an impact. So really, it's just my original mission. I worked in the offices for 10 years sorting this stuff out. When I started in the late 90s, I just started running labs because I could. They let me. Not a doctor.
Yeah.
Basically, I show up with no medical background and ended up within a short period of time having seen so many people in this cycle of trial and error, trying everything. I said, I'm going to be the last guy they need to see
Yeah.
with no medical background and just those great mentors I mentioned. But I made my own observations in this 10-year period
Yeah.
and systematized and documented what I was doing. And so that was what, then they kind of pushed me. I only did it to help people who came in our office
Yeah.
and to make us a great office and to get the emotional and spiritual rewards that come from helping others. And then they kind of made me start teaching. I mean, this people you run into, not the office, but
Yeah.
because they lost me, I left to teach. And so, but my mission for those 10 years was to educate as many people as possible how to get well and stay well naturally and have them go train their families and teach others. So then that mission just got expanded when I said, well, Reed, if you really want to help as many people as possible, you'll teach your systematized, documented system that I created. Again, by making observations over 10 years, recognizing patterns with the good coaching I had. And and now that's what I'm most proud of is that I can go to a conference. Look, it's not for ego, but I get rousing applause when I show up and there's a lot of my people there. It's really kind of embarrassing actually. But yeah, I mean I get a lot of thank yous for putting the course together so they could do it too.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
people want to do what I did in an office for 10 years and sort it out.
So at the end of the day, Reed, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, everyone you teach, clients, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Yeah, I'm just one guy trying to do some good in the world. Just what can I do? And trying
Yeah.
to keep the you know, every day you got to keep at it. My dad said, just keep plugging, son.
Yeah.
Just keep plugging. When you're fishing, you got to keep your line going out in the water, and that's what we do.
Yeah. Absolutely. So if anyone wants to get involved with your system, reach out, any of the good business in your world, where do they go?
Yeah, well, it's FDN training. So we call it Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, FDNtraining.com. And I was just looking in my notes to see if there was uh, yeah, just go to FDNtraining.com, I guess,
Okay.
and learn all about it. I mentioned that mtdiet.com for people who just, they're not interested in a course. They just want to eat better or something. Um, so there's some good things. Read some good books.
Yeah.
That MT Metabolic Typing Diet's one of the best, along with 100 other books I could recommend.
Yeah. For sure. This has been wonderful. Thank you. I'll put this in the show notes. I appreciate your time today. Keep doing the great work. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. And you're doing amazing work too. So I'm
Thank you.
proud to be here.
I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you, sir.